Welcome to Inspiring Teachers, a show bringing you classroom tips, motivation, and stories from successful educators. Join Tavis Bean and Danny Hauger as they explore the why of teaching.
Hey everybody, welcome to Inspiring Teachers. I'm Danny Hauger, and today I'm talking about using a tree as a metaphor and also as a signal to your classroom of their growth and learning through the year, and also to help shift our minds during this time of tumult in 2020 to something that is more natural, that is a constant growth that is outside of the time frame that we think about, and that's growing a tree. Today's show is brought to you by ampeduplearning.com and also from a friendly supporting gift from fastgrowingtrees.com. They're sending a Methley plum tree to my house that I'm going to photograph weekly for my students this fall and all through the years of my teaching, and to symbolize how their learning is growing constantly along with the growing of that tree, and that one day their knowledge will fruit and will produce excellent results that'll be even sweeter than the plums that are going to grow on this tree. Fast Growing Trees is one of the top rated websites for getting a tree, and I thought that any teacher out there who's looking to shake things up and do something different during physical classroom time or distance learning might use a tree to represent the learning and the growth that the classroom shares. I just think it's a wonderful idea, and it gets us shifting our minds towards how we can help improve the environment or even grow something that brings us a bit of joy that comes from a natural, restored place. And I think that's very good. I also want to thank ampeduplearning.com because they've continued to support the Inspiring Teacher Show and our dream of sharing positive thoughts about the classroom and giving ideas from top educators around the country. We've had a lot of great guests in the last few months, and ampeduplearning.com has been there to support us through all of it. You can use promo code HaugerHistory10 to save 10% off your order, and they have a lot of cool sales going on now, more and more frequently, so follow them on social media, get entered into their contests, find their amazing teacher resource creators, and they're owned by two teachers in Texas who really are trying to do the best things for their teacher creators. The prices of all my things that I've ever made are always lower at ampeduplearning.com. My book, A Broadcaster's Secrets to Teachers, that's supposed to be plural, is just $2.99. So pretty excited to talk about a Methley plum, which is very productive and attractive, very hardy. It's a Japanese tree. It's strong. It produces regularly and abundantly, and only grows about 10 to 20 feet tall, so it doesn't require another plum in order to be fertile, and so it should be amazing to be able to show that. Hey, we'll make sure we pop that tree in here to the Inspiring Teachers podcast as well, because I know you'll be curious to follow its growth. So at this point of the school year, you are probably looking for resources and ideas. And one of the things that I think that's most important, no matter what time of year it is classroom community. So I'm going to talk about some good ideas for planting seeds for classroom community growth. And I have a few ideas for you. And some of these ideas are well shaped in my ampeduplearning.com Hauger History store. And you can find other resources from me as well. And one of them is very simple, but once or twice a year, I'd like to circle up all the desks and take one sheet of paper and at the very top of the frame, put a student's name on it. That paper gets passed, so every student has one at their desk, to the right, and you have to write one original compliment to that student or piece of appreciation that hasn't been written already on the page. I run some music. I usually keep it very quiet and ask students not to hold conversation during this time. And what I found is it really does a great job of building morale, building student character, giving people validation of the qualities that they have inside them that maybe they overlook. And when you see yourself through someone else's eyes and it's kept in the positive state, I've never had a problem of anyone writing anything silly or being ridiculous. And we've always come away stronger. And sometimes there's some tears of appreciation in order to get that compliment, and some kids don't get complimented all that often. So it's a good way for everyone to express some appreciation for each other. And so that's my first idea for you today, is a class compliment circle that's written down, and it could be something that people keep. The second, for building classroom community, that I feel like builds a wonderful foundation, just like when you're making a mound for a tree or getting the right soil, like the plum likes to be in sand and a well-drained material. Well, for the classroom, I find that a great foundation is to really understand and respect the stories that we all have. Everywhere we come from, our parents, households, families, guardians, friends, neighborhoods, cities, and even the way that we came into the city or the country really can change our perspective. And we don't get to hear from every culture in the year. I'm a social studies teacher, and we don't get to hear from every culture in the textbook. So what can be really amazing is an oral history presentation. And I'm going to talk about it, but I'm also going to see if I can give you a link to it, because it's probably my favorite thing that I have students complete and share with the class. And I make sure that there's nothing too sensitive or fragile in there, and make sure that the students are able to choose and talk to you as your teacher about whether or not they're comfortable sharing if they have any reason that maybe they don't want to. And yes, I found the resource that I'm talking about, so I will share you a link from my store. I have it for sale right now as well, on sale. And if anyone says, hey, I'd love to have that, but I don't have the money, just get in touch with me at dannyhauger.com and I'll send it to you. I'm glad to do that. This oral history report asks students to go interview someone in their family. It can be an ancestor, a grandparent, a parent about a grandparent if they're no longer with us. It could be if they don't feel comfortable or wish to interview someone in their direct bloodline or can't. It can be a community member or someone they admire or someone at your school that they've always had a good relationship with. And what they're going to record in that oral history is their story. It's their life, their overview. It is both a great way to commemorate the oldest type of historical inquiry that we have as humans, as civilizations, and it also connects their life to a larger topic in history. So they has to come around and relate to something we talked about in class. You might choose that that's not an important requirement. You just want open sharing. Or maybe you want to hear about cultural influences or art or music or science or how a story of family lineage has affected the student. And it's a wonderful way to commemorate communities, memories, places, and people. I've heard some amazing stories about families' involvement in the military or fleeing another country for refuge, or amazing stories of entrepreneurship. I've had a student talk about their ancestor was like the biggest butter maven and entrepreneur in California's history. We had people trace their lineages to royalty. And we've had people that have traced their lineages to a florist who's been selling flowers for 5 generations in San Francisco. You don't know what you're going to get. And that's probably one of the most beautiful things, is that you as a teacher get to come in and be refreshed daily by amazing stories of reality and family and tradition from your students, and your students will appreciate each other more. They'll find common links with each other. I've had students have family members who were in the military serving in the same sector in the same city, and it is really mind-opening in a way that is very refreshing, flourishing, and beautiful. That's one that I recommend for just about every classroom. You can set the ground rules however you like. I've never had any issues. The thing I would say is I never have seen a bad presentation. If you do what I've learned to do over the past few years and set your expectations very clearly, you can show some examples. I can give you some examples if you want to show some. And then once you tell them what you're expecting and how important you feel it is and how much value you place on it, you'll be amazed with the results that you're going to get as well. I just think it's a wonderful, wonderful activity, and it's one of the things that I'm sure other teachers do, but it's one of the things I'm proudest of for having started. As a history teacher, another way to build classroom community is to document the changes in the world. I created a full year of journals that are all based on this day in history, and it's set up for a block schedule, so they're set up one for every other day. Whole year of historical journals, and I'm going to include a link to that down in the description here while we're talking. What's cool about that is it's tied to something back in years, but then you can also spend a couple minutes going over some current events and some news of the day. And it's amazing how often something that you reference from 1900 or 1929 comes back and becomes relevant again in 2020 and the years going forward. So it's a really cool resource. Plus it's good, like Mind Thinker, it gets kids transitioned well into the start of class. Focused, Bell Work gets them working right at the beginning. And it's a tremendous resource. So I have links to both of those resources that you might like to check out down in the description below. What's your favorite thing to get classroom community going? Post those down in the comment section below, and I would like to talk to you about them too. If you have anything you want to share on the show, that would be great. For me, if my classroom doesn't feel like a community, I don't feel like a leader. You know, if the classroom doesn't feel bound together, then I'm not doing a good job keeping that boat afloat. And I feel like the foundation of good soil gives you a strong vegetable, plant, or tree or flower, and great classroom community gives you an excellent year. I've been lucky. This is my 6th year teaching. There are more experienced educators out there. But I feel so strongly that even where I'm going to be continuing to be more knowledgeable as a history teacher and perhaps even getting stronger as a teacher, I've had some wonderful classrooms that felt like family, that I looked forward to seeing, that made me smile from the beginning of the class to the end. That's what teaching's about for me. And that's what inspires me to go out and try and be a good person, a good leader, a strong achiever, because I want my students to be proud of me, because I care about them and I care about what they think about me. And I really strive to, even in a political climate, teaching government or politics or whatever it is, get people to respect each other, because all of our stories matter. We all need the same things in our soil and our foundation, and nourishing that growth can lead to just the amazingness that you don't even want to let go at the end of a school year. Thanks a lot for listening. I'm Danny Hauger. You can follow me on Twitter at Danny Hauger, or as our show at Show Teachers for Inspiring Teachers. Again, check out the Hauger History Store at ampeduplearning.com. If you're interested in the tree concept, go to fastgrowingtrees.com. And thanks for spending the time listening to this if you got to the end. I appreciate it. I've got brand new music on Spotify and all digital platforms called Spring to Life. And that's about it for me this week. So class is dismissed. Be well, be safe, be kind. Thank you for listening. We'll see you on the next edition of Inspiring Teachers. Bye, everybody.